Chapter 1, Part 3. For a moment, there was nothing. Only darkness below the lip of stone, swallowing the beam of Oni's lamp before it could find a surface. Then, a dull, heavy thud echoed up from the void. Oosh! The sound cut off abruptly. Marja froze beside Oni. Neither of them moved. The darkness gave nothing back. No shifting rock, no voice, no second sound. Just the hollow silence of the chamber below.
The lattice calls, we feel it shift. The air grows thin, the earth will lift. What once held fast begins to sway. The laws we trust begin to stray.
Oni leaned forward, angling his lamp downward, but the beam scattered uselessly, dissolving into black before it reached the floor. "Batu!" he called. No answer. The rope hung slack over the edge. Still. Then it twitched. A small movement at first, barely enough to be certain. Then it slid. A slow, deliberate pull. The rope tightened. The tension built. A sudden jolt snapped through the rope. Marja flinched. Then, a hand slammed onto the edge. Marja gasped, stumbling backward. Oni's lamp jerked upward with emotion. For a split second, fingers clutched the lip, dust grinding beneath them. Before an arm followed, then a shoulder. Batu hauled himself up in one smooth motion, boots scraping against the rock as he cleared the edge and stood. He looked at them, calm, unbothered. "Hi," he said. Marja exhaled sharply, one hand pressed to her chest. Oni stared at him. "You fell!" Batu shrugged, brushing dust from his sleeve. "Takes more than one bad rappel," Batu said, dusting himself off. "Only 12 feet. I rappel good. Landing, not so good." A small shrug. "Your turn," he said. "Try to land on your feet, not your back." He swung back over the lip, settled onto the rope again, and eased himself down under control, letting the rope slide smoothly through his device. His boots found the rock below with a soft scrape, and he stepped lightly onto the chamber floor. "Oh, much better landing this time," Batu called up. "Okay, Marja." Batu lowered Marja first, steady and controlled, the rope running clean through the carabiner above. Then Oni followed, the same smooth descent. When they were down, Batu turned back to the wall and climbed to the opening, moving with practiced ease, each hold found without hesitation. A brief pause, and a slight metallic click as he reacquired the cam from the crack. The rope slipped loose and fell. Batu downclimbed the wall, fluid and precise, rejoining them on the floor. He gathered the rope quickly, coiled it with practiced hands. His lamp swung outward. The fang. The beam reached only partway into the chamber before dissolving into shadow, scattering against surfaces they could not yet see. Behind them, the corridor hung above the floor like a shallow balcony of stone, the carved figure in the corridor guarding the darkness they had just passed through. Ahead of them, the chamber opened wide and silent, swallowing their light. The air changed immediately, cooler, mineral-rich, tinged with the faint scent of wet iron. Somewhere in the chamber, a low resonance pulsed, so faint it might have been imagination. The pressure felt more in the teeth than the ears. The ceiling soared high above, fractured into plates that gleamed like dark glass. Bands of reflected light from their headlamps slid across the surfaces, rippling like oil on water, giving the uneasy illusion that the chamber breathed. Moisture beaded on the crystalline walls, refracting the light into ghostly halos that floated in the dust. At the center stood a jagged column of rock, thicker towards the top where the surrounding stone had been forced outward around it. It didn't rise from the floor so much as pass through it, as if a single immense mass had driven straight down through the mountain. There was no visible end, only continuation into the floor below. Around the base, the ground had fused into a glassy, uneven sheet, rippling like obsidian caught mid-flow, as though the rock had briefly lost its solidity and then locked in place again. "This looks like a meteorite impact," Oni breathed, though even as he spoke, his words faltered. The surrounding stone wasn't simply shattered, it had been reshaped, blistered, hollowed into bulbous cavities as though the mountain had softened to receive it. The hollows shimmered faintly, their interiors lined with metallic residue that caught the lamplight like burnished copper. "But it isn't like any meteorite strike I know about," he said, lowering his voice. Marja stepped forward, awe flattening her voice. "What do you mean?" "Less violent, not explosive," Oni replied, quietly. He laid his palm against the column. The surface was cold, slick like frozen glass. Beneath his hand, the vibration strengthened, subtle, irregular, like distant thunder trapped inside stone. He pulled his hand away faster than he meant to. The sensation lingered a heartbeat longer than his touch. "I have never seen impacts in mountains," Batu said, his voice thoughtful, probing memory. "Closest sites are farther north, in Siberia." His tone was casual, but his knuckles whitened around the handle of his axe. He glanced upward at the dark ceiling, half expecting it to move. The place pressed on the senses, vast and heavy, like the mountain itself was holding its breath. Marja turned slowly, her lamp sweeping the curved walls. "Look, more glyphs," she said. Her lamp revealed a wide panel carved deep into the stone, the lines heavier, more deliberate. The figures were larger, their bodies rigid, arms lifted toward the sky in unmistakable gestures of alarm or reverence. Above them hung a long, jagged shape, narrow at the tip, widening as it descended, like a stone fang descending from the heavens. Marja stepped closer. "Is this the meteorite?" Marja whispered as she pointed at the fang. Below the falling shape, the carvings turned chaotic, waves radiating outward in violent arcs. Jagged tunnels split the stone beneath the figure's feet. Scattered star shapes filled the upper field, their points etched deeper than the rest, as if the carver's hand had pressed harder with each strike. "Eyewitnesses," Marja said in a whisper. For a moment, the chamber fell silent. Then the faint resonance returned. Deeper still. As they pressed deeper, the petroglyphs grew sparse. Long stretches of bare stone separating the remaining carvings now. The corridor felt quieter here, the air colder. Somewhere ahead, a slow drip echoed through the tunnel, each drop swallowed quickly by the dark. Their lamps moved over the walls, searching. Batu's light settled on a single panel carved into the purple-veined stone. Time had softened the edges, but the shapes were still clear. 7 human figures stood in a ring. Their bodies were simple strokes, their arms lifted toward the center. Each figure leaned slightly inward, frozen in the same gesture. Batu moved closer. A thin film of mineral crust had gathered in the center of the carving, pale and chalky where moisture had dried and hardened over centuries. He rubbed at it gently with his thumb. The surface flaked away in small, brittle curls. "Look," he murmured. More of the crust loosened beneath his fingers. He brushed it aside carefully, the dust drifting through the beam of his lamp. Something darker emerged beneath, a single figure. Not part of the ring, but carved above the circle. The body tilted upward. The legs trailed downward toward the ring below. For a moment, the 3 of them stood in silence. The 7 figures were not reaching toward empty space. They were reaching toward the central figure. Batu spotted a small opening near the floor directly under the carvings. He looked at the group and said, "You're not going to like the next part." Marja did a fast sketch of the carvings, and with a mixture of panic and curiosity, Oni and her followed the large man as he hunkered down and crawled through the small passageway near the floor. Batu removed his pack and pushed it in front of him to find his thinnest form. Still, he struggled to fit as the passage narrowed, his hips scraping along the stone. The air sharpened with the clean mineral scent of underground streams. A faint pressure shift brushed their ears, as if the mountain exhaled through the narrowing throat of the tunnel. After a few meters, the tunnel opened into a broader chamber, shaped by water rather than tools. Jagged channels cut through the floor and ceiling alike, carved by centuries of runoff. Somewhere in the dark, a thin trickle moved through the stone. Sometimes the dripping faltered into silence, an abrupt pause that made the darkness feel suddenly deeper, before starting again. Veins of the same purple-streaked rock threaded through the formations, interrupting the limestone like frozen currents. Under their lamps, the mineral bent and scattered the light in strange ways, brightening when the beam struck at an angle, dulling when stared at directly. Oni said nothing. His light stayed fixed on the grooves, on what could be seen and measured. A muted resonance rolled underfoot, subtle enough to question whether it had happened at all. The drip of water filled the silence between them, the rhythm of years dissolving into the sound. Each drop struck the stone like a slow, steady heartbeat. Batu had moved a few paces ahead, rounding the bend where an ancient fallen stalactite lay across a part of the passage like a broken trunk of some stone giant. He stepped so abruptly, Oni nearly walked into Marja. His breath caught, sharp enough to cut through the steady drip of water in the dark. "What is it?" Marja asked. Batu didn't answer. He'd gone rigid in a way Oni had never seen before. Every line of him pulled tight, shoulders set hard beneath the pack straps. Slowly, almost without seeming to realize it, he took a step back. "Batu?" Batu kept staring past the fallen stone. His face glowed purple. Oni still couldn't see what had stopped him. Batu swallowed. "That," he said, and for the first time since they'd entered the mountains, his voice was unsteady. "That was dark a second ago."
In violet veins the silence sings, a force unfastens buried things. No hand to guide, no voice to warn, yet something bends.